Sharon, can you hear me?
Vince? Vince, we're surrounded by the fire and not getting out of it, and I have a lot of scared people in here.
I know. Take a breath, okay? Just you and me now.
That was an incredible clip of the next episode of Fire Country starring Diane Farr as Sharon Leone. The CBS hit show has the highest ratings of any freshman series on any network, reaching roughly 10 million viewers a week across various platforms, including, of course, Paramount+. And Diane, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so happy to have you back.
Thank you for having me. It's gorgeous in here.
Isn't it beautiful? Thank you.
Look at the family right up there.
I know, they're so
it.
fantastic. You have built such a great team, and we love you guys. Clearly, America loves you. What has the journey been like from the beginning, because I talked to you before the show even premiered, to now?
It's been a joy. It's been one of those things. I was on so many cool, interesting indie art shows, and you always wondered, what would it be like if you had the full machine behind you, if it just caught right from the beginning? And that's what this show was from day one. It was like, oh my goodness, sometimes you're on the set, and if it's going really well, you're like, so nice to meet you. I will never see you again.
Right.
This is that dream job where we were gonna love each other and enjoy each other. And I had a little bit of that in the pilot, but once it was picked up, it was sort of like a pretty steady climb up.
And it's been fantastic to see you grow. And what can we look forward to this season?
Season 2 is a lot of redemption. We have these very strong, fiery, sorry for the pun, characters who were all sort of bumping into each other and had really ingrained things because we're in a small town. So this season, everybody's digging a little deeper, and I think the things that defined us in season 1, Sharon's being her husband and her son and her job, all sort of are in upheaval in season 2.
Oh yeah, you have to have chaos at work and at home. Yeah. On the show, that's what makes it so fun. So you and Billy Burke are both over 50 in Fire Country, but age parity is rare in television and movies. What is it like to work with somebody who's near your age?
So much better. So much better. Not just for me. You have a script. You have, we're gonna call them sides. It's my side of the story and your side of the story, and we're gonna look at them. And just to be able to hold up my end of the story is such a better deal for the writer, for the producer, to bring both. He's an excellent scene partner. Billy and I spend a lot of time debating what that scene should be. What's the most true sentence in this scene? What is the hardest sentence? I don't think I would say that. Why would you say that? Here's what I see. We go back and forth so much so we get to something that feels not just right for he and I, but for the couple. I could never have done that at 28. I certainly couldn't have done it at 28 with a 45-year-old who had 20 more years experience than I did.
Yet, most of Hollywood, there's a huge age disparity on screen, and you wrote an op-ed that landed on Entertainment Weekly that has gone viral. First of all, what inspired you to make the leap to put your ideas to paper?
Because we kept getting all of this feedback that it was like lightning in a bottle that Billy and I sort of struck. We were supposed to be the parents, and it was not supposed to have any heat or even charge or sexuality. And I said to one of our writers, I said, I don't think it's lightning in a bottle. I think we're the same age. I think because we bring the same experience, status, confidence to the role, it sort of makes it truer and more real. So from that experience, I started interviewing other women, and the stories were really incredible. Almost everybody had a story of saying like, yeah, I was offered this movie, but he was 35 years older than me, so I said no. And I kept thinking, that would have been terrible for the movie.
Of course.
It wasn't working. It feels like an old trope that we forgot to fix.
Oh yeah, I mean, we had a rough patch through the 70s with all of the womanizing, and women were just there as, set decorations.
Yes, yes.
But you are helping lead a change, which is fantastic. And Frances McDormand is somebody who also inspired you.
Oh my goodness, that Academy Award speech when she talked about, what was she saying? Which parody were we on at the time? It's been so many stages.
So 3 Billboards was the movie.
Correct.
And she said that she demanded parody.
An inclusion writer.
Yes, an
to
inclusion
make sure that
writer.
we had we had both genders represented in front of the camera and behind. And she did this mic drop, and at the time I remember thinking, like, I think this is the point.
Yeah.
I think it was that actress of that year who rose up to sort of speak to what that year was about, what we were changing, because all the actresses in the category are amazing. But she had something to say that I think that was what I wanted to be as I kept going. Whatever platform I had, what if we used it for good instead of vanity?
Yeah, and the default in the industry is the male gaze, which a lot of men, you know, they love to look at younger women. That's fantastic, but women are half the audience.
Yes.
And it's about time women had a voice.
Yes.
And most of us are married to people who are very similar in age, and we want to see our lives reflected on screen.
There were a lot of comments going back and forth of this doesn't look like my life. It looks like it's very Hollywood. I know plenty of people who love someone that's a different age than they are, but that's not the same thing as being at work together. So you sort of want to peer. I have a nanny in my house all the time. We're both raising the kids, but I have far more agency at the job because I have more authority. If we were pretending to be equals in my house, it would be confusing to my children. So it was like, why don't we just play the truth of where we're at?
And you really dig into the power dynamics on a set. I've witnessed it at work. Every woman who has a job has witnessed that. When you're young and you're new, you're eager to please, you're open to every idea. And the older you get, the more you realize what ideas work and what don't. And sometimes people who are used to being in power and holding all of the cards don't like hearing that.
Yeah, it was Warren Light who has run SVU for, I think he ran it for 10 years or something, and he took over on the day that Mariska would be the sole lead, right after Chris Maloney was leaving. And he was the most clear voice of how dangerous it was to just leave very young women on set, where there was sort of no, it just led to bro culture is what he said, and putting women in his writer's room taught him his own biases. And the truth is, you can't have one. You cannot have one Latina person, you cannot have one female, you cannot have one black person, you cannot have one trans person, because they need a party of two to be able to say, this is how we feel. So in his writer's rooms, he was like, whatever voice I'm trying to reach, I need two people that look like that feel like that have that experience in order to affect change.
That is really important. No matter who you are watching, it's that you need somebody else who understands you, relates with you.
Yes.
That's the example of tokenism that's so beautifully described by you.
Thank you.
So because you did this, what do you think we should do moving forward? What can studios do? What can people do?
I think we just have a word now that we didn't have before in the lexicon to be like, oh, there's no age parity there. Maybe we should look at that. Because I think previous to that, it was like, is that weird? That was the only question. Does he look like her father? It was a series of like antiquated questions, just like I never read scripts anymore where every single person is white. There was a time where every script I got, every single person was white. Once it changed, once it made it into the lexicon, it was sort of done. I took the article after it came out and I sent it to every producer in my phone. I was so nervous. It felt really like, hi, look at me. But truly, I was like, if I want to affect change, let me see. And I asked, I said, going forward, can we all agree to use these words? Can we all agree to try to make this a difference? And like 40 of them came back saying, I will do it from now on.
So you are creating the change and you're starting to see it happen.
We should hope so. I should say the writers of Fire Country were the people that brought it to my attention, because I was like, this is really working. What about this is working? Billy and I are not from he's from the West Coast and I'm from the East Coast, and he has a music background and I have a writing background, and I was a theater person. He was like performing on stage. It was like, we don't really have that much in common except experience.
Yeah, life experience, age experience. Yeah, so it feels more like a natural partnership.
Yes, and if we're supposed to be parents to the younger generation of actors, or to the younger characters on the screen, we both took that responsibility of, well, what if I use my experience for good? This was the first job I ever had where I was the matriarch. This was, you have that period where you're the ingenue and you're the leading lady, and then I had kids and I sat out on the bench for a while, and when I came back in, I was like, oh, I'm that person. What do I want to do with that voice? It was a far more freeing voice than I could have imagined when you think you want to be Sabrina. I was like, I'm good. Sabrina can go have a dance in her dress.
Yes, I've watched that movie recently, and she's playing it like a little girl, which is fun if you're a little girl watching.
Yes.
And it's charming, but it is dated.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Diane Farr, so much for coming by and really delving into these Hollywood issues with me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And read the full essay. Just go to EW.com and check out the latest episode of Fire Country on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.